We got new rules everywhere, and a lot of folks wanted to know what I thought about it, so here we are. We're finally at Sunday, and it's the first time I've spoken to you since college football passed the new rules, and there are 3 of them.
Hello everyone, and welcome to No Huddle, where we discuss all things college football. And in this video, we're going to be discussing the upcoming rule changes for the 2023 and 2024 season. Some points we'll be hitting on are the ban of consecutive timeouts, not extending quarters, the running clock, and then the playoff extension. After we introduce these rule changes and give a brief opinion on them, we will close with our overall thoughts on the rule changes and what this does for the sport we love. But first, if you enjoy content like this or enjoy college football, be sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more videos. Let's dive in. First, the banning of consecutive timeouts. This rule is self-explanatory. Usually, consecutive timeouts are called to ice a kicker or change the scheme of a defense or offense to get penalties. Overall, it's a tactic used like anything else in football to try and gain an advantage. However, the powers that are over college football have done away with this, and we think it is for the sake of time, where this allows a more consistent flow of the game and the number of plays. Now, according to football studies, the average game time has increased from 3 hours and 16 minutes in 2018 to 3 hours and 21 minutes in 2022. So, saving 5 minutes does not seem to be worth it. Maybe the powers that be saw the MLB and its rule expansion on the flow of the game, but let's not bring things like flow and trying to speed a game up into the same realm as baseball. Two sports, two leagues that are fundamentally different must not require or be subjected to the same rules. For a quick comparison, pitch clocks, which were brought in to save time for baseball, reduced the games by 26 minutes in 2023 spring training. Banning consecutive timeouts won't save or change that much time for college football. In the grand scheme, a 5-minute increase is not something fans actively complain about. So, it does not seem that rule change number 1 is greatly reducing time or controlling flow as much as it should. The next part of this rule is to help reduce the number of plays. Okay, it may help reduce plays by a few. If you think each team gets 3 timeouts in both halves, so 12 timeouts total, at the max, this can happen 6 times in the game. Think of it this way. Team A calls a timeout, lines up after, then Team B calls a timeout. That is the best case scenario. But most commonly, one team is burning 2 timeouts. In that case, it can only happen 4 times in the game. In short, the number of plays is reduced by maybe 6. Now, it can be argued that this is for player safety, but as you will hear later in this video, this can be debated with the expanded playoff format. Again, we will expand later when we discuss this rule. No longer extending quarters. Obviously, this rule affects penalty calls at the end of the first and third quarters. When a defensive penalty is called at the end of these quarters instead of having the quarter extended for an extra untimed down, the penalty and yardage associated with it would be assessed on the next play of the ensuing quarter. These instances may not be uncommon to the sport, and the time it saves is probably insignificant. In the bigger picture, the time saved is small. If this were a 500-piece puzzle, this may be half a piece of that. So time save is not a bunch. While yes, it can better the game flow, still an untimed down is not causing that much of a problem. This can reduce the number of plays, which in turn can reduce player injuries. While we cannot speak for the group that runs college football, this is probably a sticking point for them. It is in the name of player safety. Anything that can reduce plays, and these can probably be called unnecessary. If it reduces unnecessary plays and helps keep the players safe, then college football is going to do it. Out of the 3, this perhaps saves the most time and may be the most impactful. A running clock will be implemented after an offense gains a first down, except within the last 2 minutes and a half. The NCAA Football Rules Committee believes that this will modestly reduce the number of plays in a game, but will research as it happens for the 2023 season. Now, the first quick question we have is, what is their definition of modestly reduce? But since we cannot get an answer, we won't further expand on it. But see, here is that common thread again in all of this, reducing the number of plays. It feels like the "I'm just a professional" line in Man of Fire with Denzel Washington. With this, the rules committee can say reducing the number of plays reduces the chances of injuries. This rule should speed up the game, but by how much is obviously undetermined at this point, and it makes the game more like the NFL. Now, admittedly, this has the best chance of helping the rules committee accomplish its intended goal of speeding up the game and reducing plays. One thing we're left wondering through all of this is, who are these people that are actively concerned about the game flow and if the game takes longer? There is no doubt that everyone cares about the players, and the players' safety is what we should all care about. But game flow and the maybe 6 minutes these rules save are not important important to college football fans like you and me. The people that do not complain about the time far outnumber the ones that do. If the argument is that it helped baseball, maybe it helps college football, it can still be easily deconstructed because the two sports, professional baseball and college football, are not fundamentally close. This last one does not take effect until the 2024-2025 season. The playoffs expand and include 8 more teams than they do now, from 4 to 12, which, if you think about it, goes against the whole player safety that the Rules Committee is trying to protect. Yes, the first 3 rules that we discussed shave a few plays off games. The playoff expansion adds more games and more plays, obviously. So what is it really protecting? What do these new rules help if there are more games, thus opportunities for an injury? At the heart of this, it most likely comes down to money. Shocker. More shocking is that college football, every D1 and D2 school at its core is a business. These rules cut down time in the game, and this could be for more advertising, more commercial blocks, and less cuts in the advertising. Maybe it is an oversimplification, but then again, maybe it's not. The addition of these games in the playoff format obviously creates more revenue for school, more commercials, more advertising, and a bigger cut of the ESPN views. The Rules Committee won't say that, instead it will probably opt for the player safety, which is a good thing. But the expansion of the playoff format almost contradicts that by adding more games. Now, Josh Pate over in his Late Kick podcast brought up a great point involving the CTE and the growing awareness of it into how this helps the Rules Committee drive home the point. With these rules, it can create evidence that shows that this does really help player safety. Less plays may show less injuries to the head, less concussions, and thus show, hey, we created these rules and less players are getting concussions and head injuries. See, this is a good thing. But it's almost insulting to present that argument and think that the fans are just gonna blindly accept that and think that these time-saving rules made a difference. Pate goes into this further in his show, and it is something this channel is also in agreement with. These rules on the surface will be used by the Rules Committee and NCAA football to help protect plays, but it is for more money if you look behind the curtains. Before we end this discussion, let's give our overall thoughts at No Huddle. These rules should protect player safety. Yes, that we can agree is positive. We've seen many career-altering injuries occur due to concussions. We've also seen many former players affected by CTE after their careers ended. We can also agree that it is devastating. What we take exception to is the presentation of these rules and the misguided stance the Rules Committee and the NCAA are going with. It's for player safety when it comes down to revenue. That is what bothers us, and we think bothers fans. These new rules do not cut down a lot of time like the MLB did. And if you think these are the same sports, then you're comparing 2 fundamentally different games. Cutting down, say, 8 minutes is not monumental. And for diehard fans like us at No Huddle and the viewer, those 8 minutes do not make us change the channel. It is trying to squeeze revenue, then tell fans, no, this is for player safety. Also, if you remember, the Rules Committee wanted to let the clock run on incomplete passes, then took it away later to keep these new rules. The running clock, consecutive timeouts, and no untimed down were lumped in with this 4th rule. Then when it was declared too much, the Rule Committee gave us these potential 4, which shaved to 3. It's a sneaky action taken by the Rules Committee, but it works in politics, and sadly enough, this is political. And Pate referred to this as the Overton window. This is when you have a spectrum of 2 unthinkable or radical options on opposite ends, and the compromise is referred to as the window. Without bogging you down in political policies, basically the 4 were unreasonable. So 3 showed the committee can compromise. It's just kind of insulting when the Rules Committee does this for player safety, then expands playoffs that almost go against the player safety, and tries to tell us like we did not see it through. With the season set for late August, fans have a good time frame to wrap their heads around the changes. Then, we will all see how things transpire as the season goes on, and we must keep in mind, is this for player safety, or are there more commercials than we remember? What impact do you think these rules will have on the sport? Let us know what you think in the comments below. As always, subscribe to No Huddle for more college football videos.